This is a case that's been bounced around back and forth throughout the court system.
And today, the Supreme Court has answered that question by a vote of 6-3.
Major Second Amendment case.
A silent earthquake in the Constitution. While most Americans were distracted by headlines and political chaos, a quiet but historic shift occurred inside the Supreme Court. In an extremely rare move, the justices came together unanimously on a decision that cuts deep into the foundation of our freedoms. This wasn't about a small rule or technical issue. It was about power, about force, about what the government is allowed to do to you during a police stop and how the courts are supposed to judge it. The case was Barnes versus Felix. At first glance, it seemed like just another excessive force case, but what came out of it was groundbreaking. This 9-0 decision didn't just revise a standard, it destroyed an old doctrine that had let law enforcement off the hook for years. In its place, the court created a new framework, one that could protect gun owners and law-abiding citizens far more than ever before. And here's why it matters. If you carry a gun, own one, or believe in the right to be left alone by the government, this ruling changes your world. And today on Firearms Law Advisor, we break down what the court ruled and how it upends decades of precedent. This directly affects self-defense, concealed carry, and red flag encounters, and what every gun owner must know before their next interaction with law enforcement. Let's get started. Chapter 1. The tragedy that started it all. It began with a simple traffic stop in Texas, but it ended in death and a Supreme Court case that rewrote legal history. Police officer Robert Felix Jr. stopped a man named Ashton Barnes for unpaid tolls. The stop escalated when Felix ordered Barnes to exit the car. Barnes opened the door as instructed, but then suddenly tried to drive away. In response, Officer Felix jumped onto the vehicle's doorframe and fired 2 shots into the car, killing Barnes. All of it happened in just 5 seconds. Barnes' mother later filed suit, claiming her son's Fourth Amendment rights were violated. She argued that the use of deadly force was excessive and unjustified. This raised a bigger question for the courts. Was it legal for Felix to fire in that moment of danger? Or should the court have looked at the bigger picture? That single question would change everything. Chapter 2. The split-second rule that protects police. For years, courts relied on a narrow legal test, the moment of threat standard. That means police actions were judged only by the exact instant deadly force was used. If an officer said they felt threatened in that second case closed, justified. In this case, both the district court and the Fifth Circuit backed the officer. Why? Because at the moment Felix was hanging onto the moving car, he felt endangered. That was enough under the old standard, but there was a major problem with that thinking. It ignored everything that happened before the shooting. Why did the officer step onto the car in the first place? Could the situation have been de-escalated before it turned deadly? Was Barnes actually trying to flee, or was he misunderstood? None of that mattered under the old rule. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court decided needed to change. Chapter 3. The court destroys the old standard. In a powerful 9-0 opinion written by Justice Elena Kagan, the Supreme Court wiped out the moment of threat doctrine. Instead, they replaced it with a broader legal principle, totality of the circumstances. Here's what the court now requires. The full timeline of events must be considered. Officer decisions leading up to the shooting must be weighed. The force must be judged based on what a reasonable officer would do, not just in the final second, but across the entire encounter. The court emphasized, earlier facts may show why an officer would view ambiguous conduct as threatening or as harmless. In other words, context is no longer optional, it's essential, and that has huge implications for every police encounter moving forward. Chapter 4. Why gun owners should pay attention. This ruling isn't just about the police, it's about you. If you legally carry a firearm, you've probably imagined what might happen during a tense stop. You tell an officer you're carrying, you follow all the rules. But if they misunderstand your movement even for a second, it could lead to a tragedy. Until now, courts would only look at that 1 second. Now, they have to consider everything. Did you act calmly and clearly before the moment escalated? Was your weapon holstered and legal? Did the officer overreact or misinterpret your intentions? This ruling opens the door to real accountability. It means gun owners can no longer be judged solely on how an officer felt in a split second. The Second Amendment and Fourth Amendment are no longer separate conversations. This case ties them together. Chapter 5. A new shield for gun owners and citizens. The totality of circumstances rule is more than a legal upgrade. It's a shield for liberty. This new framework forces courts to look deeper, it demands full analysis, and it forces law enforcement to be held to a standard of reasonableness, not instinct or fear alone. Here's what has now changed. Officers can't justify deadly force by skipping context. If they escalated a situation or misunderstood your legal actions, it matters. Courts must weigh how both sides behaved before, during, and after. For concealed carriers, home defenders, and any armed citizen, this is massive. It means your legal rights are finally getting a fairer review in the courtroom, not just a rubber stamp. It's a decision that restores real meaning to constitutional protections and could reshape how the courts handle excessive force, red flag seizures, and police encounters for years to come. Chapter 6. A legal earthquake hits every court. This wasn't just a correction for one court, it was a judicial reset. The Supreme Court didn't merely disagree with the Fifth Circuit. They dismantled a standard that multiple lower courts had followed for decades. Their unanimous opinion sent shockwaves through the entire federal judiciary. Now, every circuit court is on notice. Every pending excessive force case must be re-examined under this broader standard. Appeals previously denied under the moment of threat rule may now be revived. Barnes v. Felix will be the controlling precedent moving forward in similar rulings. This is constitutional restructuring at the federal level. Lawyers representing victims of police overreach now have a clear path to challenge narrow interpretations. And for the first time in years, citizens have a renewed legal framework to pursue justice when context was ignored. Chapter 7. The gun owner's new reality. If you're a responsible gun owner, this ruling hits close to home. Whether you carry concealed, open carry in your state, or simply transport firearms legally, chances are you'll encounter law enforcement at some point, and how that interaction unfolds could define your future. This decision transforms those encounters forever. You are no longer judged solely on one split second. The whole situation must be considered. Officers must justify their decisions across the full timeline, not just the moment they used force. Your conduct before, during, and after the event can now be weighed in your defense. This doesn't mean every use of force is now illegal, but it does raise the standard officers must meet to justify it. For gun owners, this restores balance. You are no longer presumed dangerous based on appearance or possession alone. The law now demands fairness for both sides. Chapter 8. When rights finally connect. The Constitution doesn't exist in silos. But for too long, the Second and Fourth Amendments were treated like separate conversations. That just changed. The court's ruling establishes a powerful intersection between the right to bear arms and the right to be free from unreasonable force. The Second Amendment protects your right to carry in your home or in public. The Fourth Amendment protects you from being treated as a threat simply for exercising that right. The use of deadly force now requires a constitutional justification based on context, not assumption. Gun ownership alone can no longer be a legal excuse for aggression from law enforcement. That's the heart of this decision. By aligning these amendments, the court has created a new layer of constitutional defense for lawful carriers, especially during encounters where miscommunication can turn fatal. Chapter 9. The future starts now. The impact of Barnes v. Felix is only beginning to unfold. Legal scholars are already calling it the most important excessive force ruling since Graham v. Connor. But unlike previous decisions that favored police immunity, this one tilts the scale back towards citizen protections. And that means change is coming. Police academies and training programs must now prepare officers for totality-based review. Cities and states must revise use of force policies to avoid future liability. Gun rights advocates now hold a precedent that strengthens defensive cases during controversial encounters. And perhaps most importantly, the 9-0 ruling sends a signal. This is not a political shift. This is a legal mandate. The Constitution isn't just being defended, it's being clarified for a new generation of Americans who demand rights that mean something when it matters most. Chapter 10. The hidden power of this case. The real power of this decision lies in what it prevents. It prevents excuses from replacing accountability. It prevents officers from relying on outdated case law to justify violence. It prevents courts from ignoring the full truth just to maintain precedent. And for every citizen, especially every gun owner, it protects their right to be treated fairly under the law. No more automatic deference based on badge or uniform. No more suppression of facts that could clear your name. No more blind spots in the courtroom when force is questioned. Barnes v. Felix is a turning point, a 9-0 wake-up call. And if we apply it correctly, it could be the most important tool we've had in decades to preserve not just gun rights, but due process, freedom, and dignity for all Americans. One ruling, 50 states, millions protected. You won't hear about this on the evening news. But make no mistake, the Supreme Court just sent a shockwave through the legal system that protects every American. This ruling is not about one traffic stop, one officer, or one moment of violence. It's about all of us. Gun owners, citizens, parents, travelers, people who just want to be safe, protected, and treated fairly by the laws we follow. Barnes v. Felix is now your shield, if you know how to use it. So here's what you need to do right now. Share this video with your entire 2A community, because knowledge of this ruling could save a life. Comment below if you've ever experienced or feared being misunderstood during a police encounter. And subscribe to Firearms Law Advisor, because we don't just report what happened, we show you what it means for your rights, your future, and your freedom. Stay safe, stay smart, stay armed with knowledge, and we'll see you in the next one.